What is the Declaration of Independence? The Declaration of Independence was a declaration of war. It was a rebellious manifesto. It was a thumb in the eye to the modern method of government in Europe. Because at this time, the British Empire was a monarchy with a parliamentary legislature, which means the king acted as an executive member of government, while Parliament acted as the legislature, or the people who passed the laws. However, Parliament was not equal in power to the king, and often rubber-stamped whatever the king asked for. So this document was a "we're not going to take it" kind of statement to the King of England, King George III. However, Parliament was also responsible for setting these taxes against the American citizens of the colonies. This means that some people do not really understand this document and what it's actually about. The entire document was basically that the colonies of North America did not believe that the British Empire was doing them justice, and that the British Empire was not effective in representing them and governing them fairly, which is quite apparent once you read the document. Here's a quote from the Declaration of Independence. Quote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of those governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute a new government, laying at its foundations such principles and organizations in its power, and in such a form as to them shall seem most likely and effective of their safety and happiness." So what does this mean? I mean, the language is kind of archaic and a little hard to follow, but its meaning realistically is fairly clear. That the rights of man are natural and not given by government, but given by either a creator, if you're religious, or by the natural order of existence, if you're not religious. And that these rights are not up for debate. They are unalienable rights, full stop. That means that you cannot take these rights away from people. Now, these rights are not fully detailed in the Declaration of Independence. However, the rights of man are not constructed by government. They are just man's rights. So an alteration as to the access of your rights, or how you may express them, that is by definition a violation of those rights. Now, this seems like a really dangerous and radical idea, that no right can be altered or regulated. Well, in reality, that's not entirely true, because it also goes on to say that its powers and organization should be formed as to most likely affect their safety and happiness. Now, this means that certain times people's rights can be halted or altered, depending upon how they're impacting others' rights, for the safety and happiness of everyone. So, it really comes down to, most of it has to be done only to stop people from abusing other people's rights. And this radical idea has only been around for a little more than 200 years. It's still fairly a new concept in the political arena, where many of our political treatises are between 100 and 500 years old. Only being around a little bit more than 200 years is still fairly a new idea. And this idea did not fully come to be realized in most other constitutional democracies throughout the world. Their rights are set up in very different ways than the way America set up its rights in its Constitution, and the way America discussed its rights in this Declaration of Independence. However, this is not all that the Declaration of Independence states. There are some other paragraphs, primarily discussing the detailed wrongs that the colonists felt that they had had. And the last two paragraphs are a summation telling England that the United States of America were going to declare that they were free and independent from England, and that they were going to assemble a Congress and General Assembly in order to declare this. This was the beginning of the United States of America, with a political dissent. And this is where a group of men said to a king, "We will not be trod on." However, in America, we've had some issues in the past few years, starting way back with the Great Society, where we continue to allow government to tread upon the individual freedoms of people, either to succeed or fail, without any intent on harming others. They just tread on the citizen's general rights to do what the citizen wants. So perhaps it is time that we moved away from the idea of the Great Society and returned to the idea of "don't tread on me." An expression that was given form as a rallying cry of individual freedom and free thought for all. Thank you very much, and good night.